Oh You Thought Podcast, the place where you get a heavy dose of positivity, sarcasm, knowledge, and ratchetness. Enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? It's that time. I know you missed me last week because I didn't drop a new episode of my lovely podcast, Oh You Thought, but I'm here this week. And it's a special episode, and so I hope you fully enjoy what I have to present to y'all this week. And let's go ahead and just jump right on in. Oh, you thought that the good people in Hawaii wouldn't be bold enough to troll the hell out of Trump on his recent visit there. And when I saw Welcome to Kenya trending, I was just like, what's going on? And then you click on it and you see all these banners and signs, and they're just trolling Trump because, you know, he tried to say that Obama was from Kenya, so he wasn't born in the United States. In the United States. And so Hawaii had another thing coming for Jesus, I'm sorry. My allergies are like crazy this week. And so we have that Welcome to Kenya, and it was just so good for the soul. Oh, you thought. And this is my geeky side, but fuck it. Like, you never thought that the option would be on the table again for X-Men to come on home to Marvel / Disney. And so Fox, they've been holding talks to sell the company to Disney, which would be a wonderful thing because they're, again, you know, if you're into this world of like the Marvel movies and stuff, you know, there's a clear difference of how the Marvel movies are made versus the DC movies. And so the X-Men movies are wonderful. They're great. Like, they're the best out of those from that company. And so to see the possibility and then to think about what Marvel could do to take it to the next level is amazing for me. Like, I've had many discussions with people I know that's into this world, and we just always say, oh, yeah, the movies are so great, but it could be like even to like the next level. And, you know, if you talk about bringing X-Men to Disney, then that means you can talk about combining the X-Men and the Avengers. And so that's just like a big thing. And so when I saw that, I got really happy. I don't even know if I talked about that they're talking about doing like basically a sequel to Logan, which would focus on his daughter Laura. And I said that as soon as I saw Logan, I wanted to see a movie with the little girl Laura. So it's just all this goodness with, you know, movies like that I like. And so what Justice League is coming out this weekend, this Thursday, today, if you're one of those that catch movies on Thursday. So it's out today. So I'm going to see it on Saturday. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, good news. Oh, you thought that if you were a felon in Virginia that you would never have the right to vote again. As of last week, or maybe the week before last week, whenever we voted, they officially had the opportunity to vote again. And that's just a major thing. Like, for me, like, I feel like once you go to jail, you pay your debt to society, you should have all your rights given back to you. That's the point of going to jail. Like, you're paying for what you did wrong. So when you come back out, you have the opportunity to rebuild your life. And that also, to me, entitles you being able to vote. Because can you just imagine, like, as far as the big population of the prison system, to have all these people that have the possibility of getting out of prison, going back into society, but they can't contribute as far as picking the next president or the governor or wherever else, voting on different bonds and different decisions like that, all because you made a mistake. And I think we just keep forgetting that prison is to reform, to make you pay for your mistakes. So when you get out, you can start a life. And it's just, I could go on probably for a couple of hours of the horrible system we have in this country in regards to jail and being on probation and how that worked, that crazy circle they try to keep you in, so you just always are in the system. Like I said, I can go on for hours about that, but I was definitely happy to see that, because I know it's been in talks in multiple states to get that done, but yeah, so good things. Oh, you thought Netflix, and I like using your services, but you thought it would be cool to have a movie, a comedy where the lone black sorority member is forced to teach a white sorority how to step in order to get into Harvard Law. And I'm just like, when I saw the premise and when I saw the picture being promoted with this movie, I was just like, how can you just totally miss the mark like this? Like, this is just, it's 2017. Like, really? Like, you gotta teach some white sorority members how to step in order to get into Harvard Law? Like, is that really what we doing? Is that really how we rocking? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, people really just throw movies together and think that, yeah, this is going to be hella cool. Everybody's going to love it. We're going to have this sister out here dedicated to get into Harvard Law. How come, like, there again, like, let's promote other schools. Like, I get it. Some of these schools are the best of the best, but the best HBCU in the world, Southern University, they have a law program. Like, why does it have to be we have this black woman jumping through another hoop in order to get to Harvard Law? Maybe I'm too walking, I'm taking it to a different level, but that's just how my mind thinks. Call me crazy. But yeah, so those are my little rants for the week. And I want to go ahead and officially welcome you to episode 35. My name is Fallon, and I'm coming to you from Houston, Texas. And this is my lovely podcast, Oh You Thought. And before I jump right on into this special episode, and this episode is based again on self-care. Like, I am so like an advocate of mental health, and I think like it's been so crucial. Like, this has been a hell of a year, especially for a lot of us dealing with the whole Trump factor. And it's like everyone's just having a hard time. Like, it's not just yourself, it's not just your neighbor, like it's everybody, like collectively going through a lot of personal stuff. And so I think you gotta make sure you're just okay. Like, and I always say, like, have you checked on yourself today, this week, this month? Have you done something nice for yourself? Like, this is where this episode comes from, because I want to just take the opportunity to use a chart basically that gives you 3 different mindsets, and I'll explain those later. And I just want to use that to talk about mental health. And so that's what this episode will be solely about. I won't be presenting any new music or anything like that. It's just going to be mental health. And so next week is a holiday week. I still will drop an episode. It may be another special episode. Like, I do want to push out the Big Crit episode. I do have an episode in preparation where I'm basically going to talk about nothing but music, because I've been listening to a lot of good music the last few weeks, and I haven't been able to really shine a spotlight on different albums and mixtapes that have come out. And so I want to make sure I take an opportunity to do that. So the next 2 weeks, it might be just nothing but music for your soul. And I'm hoping I can start that out with the Big Crit episode. And it's just been a delay because I really want this episode to be like one of my best episodes, because I am a big Crit fan, and this is, all due to my best friend that really put me on to Big Crit. And so I'm just, perfecting the content and what we're going to talk about on the episode, and just really trying to get our scheduling together, because he works and I'm unemployed. And so we're just trying to finalize that to where it's good for both of us. But the episode is still coming. And if you haven't listened to the Big Crit album, Forever is a Mighty Long Time, Big Crit, check it out. It's a double disc album, and it's just good music from top to bottom. If you call yourself a hip hop head, you cannot just glance over this album. Like, really consume it and let it breathe through your soul. I know, I'm corny. So yeah, so we have some music episodes coming down the pipeline, and then we might get back to the regular episodes. It's just, see how I feel. So this week, the past 2 weeks, dealing with some stuff, and Friday I have an interview. So tomorrow I have an interview. Hopefully the interview will go well. I'm hoping. And what did I say? Justice League comes out this week. So me and my boyfriend are going to go see that on Saturday, good Lord willing. And so I'm just excited. Like, I'm sorry, like, that is truly like the geeky side of me, and I'm dragging him full on into my world. And so I'm excited about that, to get the opportunity to finally share that with him. Some good news, y'all. Some very good news. And it's just, I'm going to spin it in a positive direction on why you should just never quit, and you should always have your eye on the prize. And I am officially on iHeartRadio. So if you don't use iTunes, if you don't use YouTube, if you don't use SoundCloud, if you don't use, what else? Google Play, you can catch your girl on iHeartRadio. And just a quick story about that. When I first started this podcast back in April, I also streamed the podcast on this website application called Spreaker. Speaker with an R, Spreaker. And they have a connection with iHeartRadio, and they have it to where you can just quickly apply to the format. And, I felt a little weary about that, because I was like, I just use this format just as another option in case someone comes across my podcast. But I get all of my streams and subscriptions and all of that stuff mostly from iTunes, number 1, SoundCloud, number 2, Google Play, and then YouTube is like the lowest. And so I was like, I'm just going to try. Like, I just thought it was going to be an easy thing, and they denied me. It was basically because it was like, oh, you don't have enough subscribers, it's too new, And, I didn't even feel defeated. I was just like, whatever. Like, I'm down to do the work. This is the whole point of me doing the podcast, of me building up a true audience for this podcast. And so I was like, fuck it. Like, when I get my numbers up, I'm going to try again. And that's what I did, I think, a couple weeks ago, because I did it and I totally forgot. And I remember when I got the email from iHeartRadio saying, hey, girl, your podcast is now on iHeartRadio. And it just made me so happy, because I just never quit with this podcast. This is something that is truly a baby for me. Like, when I call it my baby, I mean it. Like, I'm trying to make it grow and love it and listen to what y'all are telling me and feedback and everything. Like, I do all that because it's so important to me. And it means so much to me. And the only other person that really understands what this means to me is my best friend. I also call him the producer of the show, is because he was there listening to my practice episodes when I was doing them October of last year. So I put in work to make sure I wasn't just presenting junk. as I always like to say, like, you can see a change from the audio from if you listen to my practice episodes to my premiere episodes in April. Like, I still was perfecting stuff, and it's totally different from April until now. Like, it's just a totally different vibe, and that's why I say this, like, just never give up. Like, it was a dream for me to do a podcast because I enjoyed listening to podcasts, and as a shy, quiet person, for me to want to do a podcast was major. And so that's why I just feed the hunger so much, because I'm getting a blessing out of it as far as like my shyness and stuff. And it's pushing me to promote myself and say great things about myself. And, you know, it's great. So catch me on iHeartRadio. I'll probably put a link in the notes like I always do for all my other formats. What else? So yeah, so stuff is just coming down the pipeline. And like I said, the show is going to be a little different. So you're not going to hear all my different bumpers and stuff. Like, we're just going to just do a free forming episode from start to finish. And so the first thing that I want to talk about before I jump into the topic, I found like a random quote on Pinterest, and it says, "What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create." So when you hear those 3 lines, what does it bring up to you? Like, what do you think? Like, do you believe this? I definitely do. And I think out of the 3, I think I struggle with number 2, because this one I really can't seem to tackle why I attract the people that I do. And when it says what you feel, you attract, and not talking about my current boyfriend, but I don't feel like I want people to cheat on me. So I've had like just about everybody in the past before him cheat on me. Like, so I don't get that. And so I really, sometimes I sit and examine and try to figure out, because I've always heard this about what you feel you attract. And I just never really get the connection, because I've dated liars and I don't lie. And yeah, like if at the beginning stages of my dating life, I didn't have any self-esteem. So I was the chick that if you showed me attention, then I would talk to you. And yeah, but it took growth in order for me to get out of that. So that's just like a big thing for me. Like, I still try to figure that line out. What you imagine, you create. There again, going back to my podcast, I thought about it. I put together a plan. I did my research, and here I am, and I'm creating it. What you think, you become. In my professional world, I am totally lost. Like, I know there's things that I love. I always wanted to be a doctor. I didn't become that. I thought about being a nurse or a physician assistant. Didn't become that. So yeah, like, we all struggle with, things like this, statements like this, and it's just how you push through, because there again, nothing is perfect. You aren't perfect. Like, you're gonna make mistakes. So when you hear these lines, what you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. Like, what do you think? Like, what thoughts do those lines like just invoke in your spirit? Like, are you triggered? Does it make sense? Like, if you happen to want to share what you think about what I just read, send me an email, OhYouThoughtFallon@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram, OhYouThoughtFallon, or you can DM me on Twitter, Pretty and Smart 81, and just give me some feedback. So with that, we are going to jump into the topic of the show and do our mental check for the last portion of the year. And so yeah, the chart that I'm going to be using for most of this discussion, I'm going to post it with my typical promotional posts that I do. And so you'll be able to see it on Instagram, Twitter. If you're family or friends, you'll be able to see it on Facebook. And then also, just to let you know, I probably will be creating a Facebook account for this podcast so we can still be more interactive with each other. And so that's coming down the pipeline because I'm a planner. And so, like I said at the top of the show, I wanted to do another mental check to see how we all are doing in the OUT community. And yes, I use OUT as a little acronym for Oh You Thought. And so I just want to know if we're all doing great. I know I'm struggling this year, and I know that I'm going through a lot this year outside of just being laid off and being unemployed. And when I came across this infogram, I thought this would be a great discussion in order to trigger us on where we are today as far as our mental health. And so it's divided up into two circles, and basically the wise mind is the center of everything, like just high level before diving into the chart. The wise mind is, of course, where you make all your good decisions, where you're typically happy and stable, and this is where nothing that doesn't make sense can come in and make you make those bad decisions. And then on the right side, the emotional mind, where I tend to live. When things are going wrong in my life, I dip off quickly into the emotional mind, and my emotional mind triggers me to eat emotionally whenever I'm going through something. Not everything, but certain things trigger me to be so emotional. And this is where you don't make all your best decisions. And this is where reason and logic is out the front door, literally. And this is where a lot of us just mess up, being in that mindset. And so the rational mind is on the left side of the chart. And basically, it's just, the buddy to the wise mind. Because there again, you think wise mind, you're making good decisions. Rational mind, keyword rational, that means you're thinking about things. You're allowing yourself to think through problems and deal with problems. And so it makes sense, right? That it's more connected to the wise mind than the emotional mind in this chart. And so just to go ahead and just dive on in, I'm going to start in the middle of the chart talking about the wise mind, and then I'm going to go to the left and talk about the rational, and then in talking about the emotional mind. And so the wise mind, this is where you get all your intuitive thinking. This is where you're organizing. This is where OCD kicks in, and this is the balance of being rational and emotional. And that is definitely a mindset to where you can live, to where you're not totally just in one type of mindset, that I personally believe. You could be going through something, you could be using your rational mind to think through it, but on the other hand, you are still worrying about it. So you're eating ice cream or something, like you're being emotional, you're crying, or whatever your triggers are in the emotional state. And so this is the balance. And for me, I just kind of made a note of, this is like the check and the balances of your mind, of your brain, within yourself, all those things, the checks and the balances. And some of us don't even have a wise mind. Some of us are just out here wilding and thinking that everything is okay, and it's not. I would say that Trump does not have a wise mind. I think the most wise thing he probably did was the whole UCLA thing, with getting those 3 players out of whatever trouble they could have possibly been in China, because we all understand how crazy it is out in China as far as like getting in trouble. And I will say this because I really didn't want to talk on the topic, but you got to know how to govern yourself accordingly when you're going to these different places, and you got to know how to be on your best behavior. Like, those 3 young men shouldn't even have been in that situation to where Trump had to get them out of that situation. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And it's just like, now, like, they can't even play basketball for UCLA. Like, it's just, you made stupid decisions, and now look at your life. And so, I'm sorry, I don't want to go on a tangent. I'm going to stay on the topic. And so the rational mind, basically the rational mind approaches with knowledge and intellect, thinks logically and uses past experiences, uses facts and research as well as planning. And this is basically when my OCD mind is locked in on trying to get stuff done. I'm working in my rational mind. When I'm trying to make decisions about if I should do X, Y, Z, if it's something I've already been through, then I'm using my past experience to explore my options as far as what I want to do. Rational mind, like, this is your sober mind. This is your good God-given mind. And I think, like, it's tough when we're going through things to 100% use our rational mind, but it's there. Like, I feel like all 3 mindsets coexist, and it just depends on what we're going through on which one shines. Or if you're just mentally put together and you're just running like a well-oiled machine, then you're able to just really live in the wise and the rational mind. And you know, I definitely will pat myself on the back, because the way that I deal with stress and certain things nowadays is not how I used to do a few years ago, where everything would be like, oh my gosh, or I'm going to cry, or woo, 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 whatever it was. Like, it was just like, I would push through it because I'm a strong person. But as far as like how I'm dealing with all the stuff I'm going on with being unemployed and everything else going on in my personal life, you would never know that I'm going through anything. And that's all I will say about that. And so the emotional mind is reason and logical thinking is difficult. Uses only emotions to make decisions, which is so bad, which this is where you get into shopping problems, eating problems, anything that you're addicted to. You're easily triggered to use those in the emotional mind. You're reactive, you know? And when I read this, when I first saw this chart, I was triggered, because when I first saw this chart, I was going through something, and even though I wasn't handling it like I normally would do, which would cry and just be like, woe is me, like, stuff is always going to be the same when it's dealing with X, Y, Z. And like, real talk, like, I pushed through that so well. And I think also, you don't always have to talk about what you're going through with other people. And I was talking to my best friend, and I was just like, hey, I don't really feel like talking because I am going through something, but you know, I'm just trying to deal with it by myself. Because at a certain point, you get tired of telling your business, even if you are talking to a best friend or your family, because people still will judge you. And I'm not saying my best friend does. He does a great job of listening to my problems and talking it out with me. So I'm not talking about my best friend per se, but people can be judgmental. And if you're living in the emotional state already, it makes it worse to deal with people that they think that they're helping you, but really it's just a trigger for you to go deeper into whatever else you are dealing with, because it's too much. And so, after going through the chart, are we making the best decisions in life? How are you holding yourself accountable for the decisions you make in your life? And do you tend to make decisions based on your opinions on life happenings, or based on a sound mind? Like, how do you normally operate? And I say for me, like, as of right now, I'm like right in the middle between the wise and the rational at this point, because I always feel like at this point there's a new problem for tomorrow. Like, worry about just today. And I'm loosely quoting a Bible verse. And I just think, like, even if you aren't making the best choices, what are you doing to get to the best place in your life? Are you taking the right steps to get to the right place? If you are suffering from a mental illness, what are you doing to correct the problem to make your life better? And there again, when I bring up the topic of mental health, I bring it up because it's something that we still need to get a handle on. It's something that we still need to talk about. And it is important. How you feel is important. And it should never be negated on how you feel. And I just think that we just keep we just keep having to say this to people that are important to us, because they're, again, the black community. I've said this before. Like, we look at depression as not a real disease, and it's something that can just be prayed away, which I believe in prayer, which I said before, because I just want to make sure y'all get this right. But we need to look at it on the high level and on what mental illness really is and how it affects people. Like, when people say they are depressed, those that are really depressed, it is a true feeling and emotion. And so can you imagine being depressed? And so you're living in the emotional state and you're just trying to live your day-to-day life, but it's a struggle. Like, that is a real thing. I've been through that. I always talk about December of 2016. And it's just like, for me, like, going back to that, it was just like, I didn't know what was going on with me. Like, nothing. I don't know what triggered my deep depression in December. But moving forward, do you know when you're making emotional decisions? And I definitely do. Like, I feel anxious like all the time. I start shopping a lot. I start looking for comfort food, and that's typically Mexican food and ice cream. And it's just like, I can't get my brain to shut off. And I'm just always thinking about stuff. And I think with me being unemployed and being on like just a crazy strict budget, like, when I start to have these emotional breakdowns and I just start going in stores, just looking to buy something, looking to fill a void of something that's missing inside of me. And there again, like on the blog post that I shared last week about chasing happiness, I feel like there's something missing in me, like true happiness. Like, I'm on the constant search as of this year for true happiness. And this is happiness that doesn't exist with a man or with family or with best friends or whatever the case may be. Like, this exists because I want to do things that make me happy. And I want to understand what truly happy is. Because no, I don't go around being sad every single day. I'm out here living my life and I laugh and smile every single day. So that's not what I'm talking about, but it's just a feeling of something is missing. And for me, that is happiness. So some of you may be able to understand what I'm talking about. Some of you probably don't. So when you're going through those emotional decisions, like, how do you check yourself? For me, like, I just make myself sit down somewhere, like literally, like just sit down somewhere. And I pray, and I just try to push through it. And how does social media affect your different mindsets? For me, when I'm emotional. I don't know if I said this on the podcast or not, but if you know me, like if you see me and I'm just like going in with posting a lot of emotional stuff or shady stuff, or if you know I'm in a relationship and I'm posting stuff dealing with relationships, like I'm going through something. And if I'm posting like every 5 seconds, I'm going through something. Like, and this is kind of like, I'm kind of going to like compare and correlate myself on a low level to Tyrese. Like when I first saw him with his videos, I was like, something has to be wrong. This is not the normal Tyrese. And no, I don't know him on a personal level, but just from seeing him as a fan, or whatever you want to call it, you could tell something was wrong. And we try to say, oh, like mental health is so important, but so many people were laughing and making fun of this man, and it comes out that he was on medication for mental health issues, but it just reacted wrong with his body. And there again, like that's a gamble you take with taking some of these medications for mental health. I never want to talk down on it, but I just always say that it's not for me. And so social media can affect it. And sometimes you could be looking at other people living their best life. And when you're in the emotional state, like you're just like, must be nice, or look at them. And I'm going through all this, must be nice. So it can have an effect on your mindset. Another question. Do you believe that you can constantly be stable? Like, when I say stable, I mean like you're basically right down the middle. Even when stuff is going on, you're right down the middle. The worst stuff can happen to you, you're right down the middle. Do you believe that these 3 mindsets can be a normal constant? Is there anything outside of emotional? Is there anything else outside of irrational? Is there anything else outside of the middle mindset of the wise mind? And of course, like when you're dealing with rational, the opposite of rational is irrational. And I feel like that's the emotional mind, in my opinion. But I think this is a good starting point of what stabilization looks like and what going on the edge looks like as far as emotional. And so that's why I definitely wanted to talk about this infogram on the show with dealing with mental health. The last thing that I want to go over is just another little chart that I found on Pinterest, and it's 30 ways to focus on self-care. And so I thought it would be great to go over these 30 ways quickly, and I'll expand on some so you can still punch in and work in some of these ideas before the year is over and carry them over into 2018. And so, number 1, read a new book. And that's always my philosophy. I love to read. Number 2, diffuse essential oils, which I do that. I have like 3 of them that I use. Take a walk. Take a bath in Epsom salt. I do that. Light a candle. I do that on a regular. Make a homemade body care item. Write in a journal. I think the journal is like, that should be number 1. Like, write in a journal where you can just write out your thoughts and get them out. Sometimes when you get your thoughts out, you can move past them. Number 8, practice yoga. 9, listen to your favorite music album. 10, drink a green smoothie. 11, make and apply a face mask. 12, go to bed early. I know that would fucking help me right about now. If I could go to bed early and stay asleep, that would be great. Yeah, you see, I'm going through it. Like, I'm cussing, thinking about good sleep. 13, make a homemade meal. 14, organize your closet. 15, treat yourself to a cup of coffee. 16, doodle or color in a coloring book. 17, walk somewhere new. 18, cozy up in a blanket. 19, buy yourself flowers. Like, something living and beautiful has to inspire you, right? 20, listen to your favorite podcast. Hell yeah. Oh, You Thought podcast. 21, take pictures in nature. 22, turn off your phone for a few hours. Yes, Lord. I am the biggest advocate of going off the grid and turning off my phone. And this annoys everyone close to me when they can't reach me, or they call multiple times and they can't reach me. Like Mr., he doesn't like it when I turn off my phone. But hey, this is how I've been since you met me. I'm known for turning off a phone. Let's see. Where are we at? 23. Declutter your workspace. I am an advocate of that. If everything is just cluttered around you, you will have a cluttered mind because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because all the freaking junk. And that's my OCD talking and my organization talking. Like, organize your space so you can organize your life. 24. Go through a stretching routine. 25, give yourself a manicure. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Trying to get all pretty for Mr. 26, scroll through Pinterest. One of my favorite things to do. 27, try a new way to break a sweat. 28, lay in the sunshine. 29, have a solo dance party. And 30, which I think also should be number one, is pray. Pray, pray, pray. Pray it away. Pray until something else happens. Like, pray, pray, pray. I believe in the power of prayer. So I hope you really enjoyed this episode. It's not a normal long episode that I've been putting out the last few weeks. So be thankful for that. Thanksgiving week, I hope you have a good holiday and be safe out there. Like I said, I will be dropping an episode next week, but I don't know what it's going to be. It's definitely not going to be a normal episode that's catered around what's going on in the pop world, sports world, music world for the given week. So before I leave, I got a few announcements that I want to get to, and I believe I said this on the last episode that I would take the effort to shout out the SoundCloud listeners. And this week I'm doing the top cities for the previous week. And so last week, number one city listening to my podcast is Kansas City. What up? Number 2, San Francisco. And number 3 is Santa Clara, California. So what's up to my listeners out there? Thank you for listening and subscribing. And next week, I'll share some new cities or names of top listeners for the given week. If you want to give a shout out, if you have, like I said, I keep trying to, cultivate us to be one big happy family so we can start doing listener letters where I can give you advice, or you just want to share a funny story, or if you want me to listen to something, tell me about it, please, and let me know what's up. I ran into a new subscriber yesterday, and we were just having a conversation about different stuff, and he let me know about this documentary that was created in 2013 about Amazon. I know a lot of us love Amazon, but I just thought that I would play devil's advocate and present this documentary in my notes. So if you want to check it out, and just basically it's just giving us the background on how Amazon has wiped away some of the mom and pop companies, which I thought was definitely interesting, because you think about Amazon and then you think about the Walmarts of the world that have basically done the same exact thing. So if you have an open mind and just if you like documentaries, check this one out. Like I said, it's on YouTube, and I'll have the link in my notes. And I hope y'all just have a blessed weekend and a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I will definitely talk to y'all next week. Until then, catch me in the IG Twitter streets and DM me, hit me up, subscribe to my lovely podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Google Play. Until then, I will talk to y'all next week. Bye. Until next time, remember to glow up, bless up, stay prayed up, and hold it down.
Hold it down. Hold it down. We gon' hold it down. We gon' hold it down.